Hello and welcome. It's first chapter, the end of The Driver Takeshiba. I'm Lynx, the man behind reading all of this stuff, playing through the game, and so on. Let us continue. Chapter 1, the end. But it's also the beginning of it, so... The car got out of the garage and went at first a somewhat unusual route, avoiding a construction site on the way. But soon they were on the main route that would take them to the headquarters of the knife production company, and by that we mean our president and, of course, the driver. Inside the car, Lady Hinode flipped through a folder with papers she had taken to prepare for the meeting ahead. The back of the Aka Storm, that's the car, apart from being comfortable, was also equipped to be a mobile office should some work be required. Damn. Can I have that? Can you imagine being able to do that? Like, they are like, no, you have to come to the office. Fine, but I will work from the car. Why? Because I don't want to be bothered by all the people. Working in an office sucks. It also had a small fridge with drinks and snacks that were being refilled for every drive. Nice. It was rare that Lady Hinode would eat anything in the car for... Really? I'll be honest, I did eat quite often while driving car. Yeah. Occasionally she would drink some mineral water, and on one occasion, when driving home, she opened a bottle of wine, but quickly closed it, not drinking a drop. Don't do that, kids. And not kids, and by me, I mean all the grown-ups. To be fair, I've never been behind a wheel if I drunk. Which happens rarely, but still, never did. After this episode, she had the wine in the car replaced by a small bottle of hard liquor, but this she never even attempted to open. After a very brief scan, Lady Hinode quickly put the papers away and closed her eyes. She almost never made true use of the car office. What a waste. Instead, she used the travel time to close her eyes or talk to the driver. In fact, she was just about to start a conversation by asking him about his opinion of a small alpine garden area she was thinking of starting in the mansion's grounds. But what happened? But then her phone rang. She pressed the button to pick up, her phone automatically connected the backseat speakers, and a stranger's voice filled the car.
Most Honorable Lady Hinode.
The stranger didn't even wait for her to start, as would be polite.
Allow me to introduce myself.
The precision hitman, Hitachi Katanabe, the striker of the future not willing to accept tradition, the high cost must be paid. Okay. Lady Hinode faintly recognized the name but couldn't place it. Her first instinct was to think of the past, anyone she has wronged recently, because the way that man on the other end had been certain of himself, certain it was her on the other end. All of it was deeply troubling, inviting back the feelings she thought she had finally buried. Feeling the fear.
May I ask what is your business?
Lady Hinode said, her voice sounding plain and simply reacting to the disrespectful conduct of the disruptor. She was, however, barely able to utter those words as she felt shivers running down her entire body. Her darkest nightmares were at once realized, as the unmistakable intention of the evil man was ever more clear.
My clients would like to ask you to reconsider your company's current trajectory.
And she's like,
well, tell your clients to go
The hitman, that's written together, that's one word, emphasized the word clients in a malignant way, almost as if enjoying the position he was clearly put in. And the way he said trajectory, he must have meant the corporation's recent financial success and market gains.
You are threatening me then?
She said calmly, but with immense effort. It was immediately obvious to her that such a request, made so vaguely, was impossible to heed.
I wish,
said the menacing voice of Katanabe.
I wish I could do that. Threaten you, that is. Only threaten you.
He continued, and Lady Hinode turned pale. That man didn't want to hide his intentions. He seemed to derive a peculiar kind of joy out of his task.
Why didn't I even bother to call you, you ask? Yes, forgive me. No, it's quite all right. It is very Japanese of you to entertain someone. If he but asks to be heard, because we were taught not to be rude, even in the face of death.
Yeah.
Death, is it?
Lady Hinode's head started to feel heavy, as if she were losing consciousness. She opened her mouth slightly to say, but she stopped herself. It was pointless. It didn't matter. Why? People like her, people in her position, with her influence, it was inevitable that at some point this would happen.
With regret, Lady Hinode,
said the hitman. Again. One word. But it was more of a way of saying goodbye than any sort of apology or sincere statement.
Oh, and
he continued.
Do you know that I have applied for the position of your driver back then? How much simpler it could have been just slicing through your throat.
Katanabe said, enjoying the sound of his own voice.
But because you picked that oddity of a man, Takeshiba, a much larger plan had to be put into motion. And to speak openly, I couldn't be happier. Not only is there more money to be made now, but also get to show you the error of your ways, Lady Hinode. For he is inferior to me in skill, a lucky fool, and from the information I've been provided, his intelligence is on the level of a mouse.
Ah. You say all of that, but why do I feel like maybe that person, that driver, is so good that he made it so you had just that information? And you think all of that? Just saying. Also, luck is a very important factor. In life especially. Katanabe finished spoken of someone who has negative luck, I guess. Katanabe finished almost angrily but happy with his concluding insult to the driver. He ended the call instantly. There was no time anymore. No time for Lady Hinode to get insulted by the slander hurled towards her protector. No time to think or to feel fear. Because in the rear view mirror of the Aika Storm appeared a hostile image. It was Hitachi Katanabe, cursing them in his own car. The car was
Motoyoda! King Overdrive R-Spec!
That's kinda futuristic. Tuned to maximize performance and equipped with the latest electronics. Ugh. Ew. Electronics in the car. Ew. This car is a blade of the streets. Fast, agile, and deadly. I hate the electronics. Dude, electronics in the car are most likely thing to break, I feel like. And we are going towards, let's make everything electronic. Let's not. Fuck. Needless to say, I hate electric cars as well. Anyway. Lady Hinode looked at her driver with terror-stricken eyes. This was it. It wasn't as if she'd never thought this could happen. The very reason she had the car made and why she hired... It was all possible. How could she ever think it would not happen? Of course. Of course it would. It was inevitable. And now it's here, so it can be helped.
Takeshiba-kun,
Lady Hinode said through the intercom. Yes, Lady Hinode. He said calmly but visibly alert as he was switching on buttons and adjusting dials on the dashboard. I want to tell you about an alpine garden I wanted to set up at home. I really would like to tell you about it, she said, fighting tears of anguish. She's already assuming she's gone. It wasn't even a conversation, really. It felt like the last request of someone condemned to death. To have one last moment before an inevitable fatal strangle, before the hitman from the phone launches his attack. In fact, it seemed that the man was indeed granting her this last conversation, following them silently for now. Perhaps it was honor, perhaps he meant to repay her for the accepting manner in which she received his intentions and tolerated his malicious tone. Yes, I like gardens. And your garden area is always very pretty. Man, I miss having, like, garden. That is going back to childhood, of course. But yeah, even though I was not, like, planting anything or whatever, because, well, of time. Given that I had school and then usually football trainings. Still, I like to just get the garden hose and water, the flowers. And the garden that my grandfather let he rest in peace, the only normal person from my father's side. Yeah, he was running a garden, like vegetables and so on. Basically vegetables. For technically also like grapes. And there were some fruits also as well. I say some. Dude, we had quite a few, like apples. I think 2 types. Peaches. Peaches? No. Pears. We had pears. Peaches, no peaches. Pears. Cherries. Yeah. And again, vegetables are already said, but yeah, there were potatoes. Tomatoes, which technically a fruit. Cucumbers. There was something else still as well. Yeah, but I would water with that stuff. I kinda miss that. It's funny, I like that kind of stuff. Like watering. I never complained about shoveling the snow as well. I miss that part as well, to be honest. I like doing that. I'm weird. I'm totally built to be living in the outskirts of town, man. But who has the money for any of that? Anyway. Let's get back to the game. Takeshiba replied. Thank you. I really wanted to show you what I had in mind, or just tell you. It's not complicated. In fact, it's simple layout. There is this car behind us. It will attack us, I know it. The driver said simply. He could feel the danger. Yes, it will. Can you get us home safely? She asked calmly with her heart racing. At once she felt the horror of the images put in her head by the adversary behind them. But there was Takeshiba-kun. He would surely get her home, she thought, and the strangeness of helplessness filled her entire being. She always knew of him and his disposition, that she needed to protect him from people. Huh? But this one case, the very case she had hired him for, here now, it was she who had to rely on him to protect her. Yes, Lady Hinode, I'll not let anything hurt you. He replied to her asking, and it was such an honest expression of his feelings, such a simple, unconcealed way of saying it, that poor tears rushed in her eyes at once. She ignored them, and wanted to say something back, when Takeshiba, as if remembering something, added, Oh, and what about your meeting in Shipblade headquarters? He asked because of him, it presented an unresolved thing in his head. Oh yeah, that meeting, I believe it's been cancelled. You think it's from them, huh? She continued, almost wanting to smile at the ridiculous calmness with which she said those words. But she couldn't help it. At once, her world was brighter, happier. Not because the situation got less dire, but because her faith in Takeshiba was, by her nature, infinite. Even if everything turned to worst, she would be here with him. Well, alright, I'll get away from this car first, and then I should take you home, yeah? The driver said as if confirming the order of actions. Yes, take us home, Lady Hinode said gently. She didn't know what was about to happen. She was nervous, afraid, but she knew she would just have to endure it all. For a second, she closed her eyes, but suddenly was pressed back into her seat by the jolt of acceleration. The high-pitched scream of the Toyota's engine behind them made it clear that Katanabe was making his move. The acceleration of the Aika storm didn't let up, as both drivers were heading towards the bridge. To avoid being hit from behind, Takeshiba had to pick up the pace to match his speed, potentially diminishing the impact force. Almost in an instant, the two cars were now speeding down the bridge. Then, in a flash, the King overdrive appeared on the left side of the Aika storm. Takeshiba gently steered to the right to lean into the heat that was coming in an effort to soften the pressure. But the second they touched, Takeshiba threw the car into a high-speed drift, creating enough space with a hard turn of the steering wheel that got softer the further along it was. He was able to turn the car facing exactly where he wanted to escape to. Flashes of blue flames rushed out of the Aika storm's exhaust as it overtook the King overdrive. Katanabe cursed and with instinctive movements flicked the steering wheel into a drift of his own. Wouldn't that car be heavy for that? His relentless mind was working, calculating the next move. Takeshiba was now in front of him, not leaving any space to attack, and a long sweeping bend lay before them. With absolute control, Takeshiba effortlessly kept the Aika storm in a high-speed drift, blocking any offensive maneuvers for the time being. In the backseat, Lady Hinode was holding on, her eyes fixated on the movements of her driver. It was a hypnotizing sight, calming her agitated mind, as she looked at his hands, making minuscule adjustments with the steering. If someone would have asked her at that very second where she was, or what was going on, if they were in danger, or what was on the road in front of them, she would have not been able to answer any of those questions. It was as if nothing else existed. No! Katanabe screamed as he saw the perfect position and the forward acceleration that Takeshiba just started. He violently leaned onto the horn and with disgust directed his words at the CEO.
My apologies to you, Lady Hinode. You certainly pick your driver quite well. Tell him to slow down, please. Let's be civilized.
The voice of Hitechi Katanabe, who has called Lady Hinode again, came through the back speakers of the Aika storm. The hitman spoke in a somewhat frustrated tone. He was driving behind them, not attacking. Noticing this, Takeshiba looked at Lady Hinode and slowed down, reading in her eyes that she granted Katanabe's request. Katanabe, however, saw this weakness and spoke.
You see, I understand who you are. Purely through your driver. Isn't that marvelous?
Hearing this, Lady Hinode flushed crimson and her eyes flushed as they filled with tears. She said nothing, but even if she wanted to, she wouldn't be able to utter a word.
Don't be embarrassed. There is nothing dishonorable about it.
He continued when...
I couldn't possibly be embarrassed by the words of a man like you.
Lady Hinode burst out suddenly. She responded with a clear, almost defiant resonance. Nice. Keep it up, girl. Katanabe was pleased to have upset Lady Hinode and felt his frustration almost gone. He has understood by now that to beat her driver, he must be in complete control of his own emotions, and the lady's agitated voice was soothing to his mind. A smile appeared on his lips.
It's obvious, really. Takeshiba, your driver Takeshiba is a blunt instrument, a useful imbecile who will not be struck by his thoughts or feelings because he doesn't have any.
How?
Lady Hinode meant to express her disgust at the vile words, but she choked up, once again almost as if in a state of paralysis. Why, she thought to herself. Why must this be happening? Now, when there are people hurting him, tarnishing his name, now when she's more than responsible to defend him. Why were the words of clear refutation that she had in her mind unable to cross her lips and reach the man who wasn't worth breathing the same air as Takeshiba-kun? Yet she clearly has feelings for him, by the way. All this went through her mind, as she therefore had to let him continue his twisted stream of commentary.
So it follows that he, unencumbered by intelligence, is simply an obedient executor of commands, not unlike a trained animal, wouldn't you say?
Lady Hinode was once again unable to speak, just when she thought she has endured her tormentor's most cruel words.
Yes, Lady Hinode, is the truth, and you've been deserving of me expressing the truth less bluntly. I give my word I would have done so. But alas, you are indeed quite a disgusting creature yourself, much like those horrible fish that you made your fortune with. And you know, it's all the better you are saying nothing. What could even say? How does one like you respond to the truth?
It seemed almost as if Katanabe was smiling. Lady Hinode was still in a state of paralysis, tears flowing down her cheeks. Not a word, not a word. She kept telling herself, knowing that any sound from her would give away exactly how she felt. And she knew she would rather die than reveal the state she was in now to anyone. Her fingers trembling, she tried to reach for the button to end the call, but her agitation was at its highest point. She felt as though she would faint any second.
I see,
Katanabe continued, after a few seconds of silence.
Goodbye, Lady Hinode.
The call was disconnected. But even before that, Katanabe already made the move to go alongside the Aka Storm, an action which didn't remain unnoticed by Takeshiba. He looked at his passenger, and at once almost a shock ran through his whole body. Lady Hinode was there, white as paper, her eyes locked with his. He had never seen her in such a distress, and he immediately knew that it must have been the doing of the other driver. It was many months ago, quite soon after he was hired by the lady, that he began to feel what he now felt take over his entire being. And that was a certain reaction to Lady Hinode's feelings. When she was happy, and would talk to him about things when they were driving back home, it felt like he was happy too. And when she was in thought or upset, he felt upset too. So when he saw the desolate state she was in, a hitherto unknown feeling stung him, and began to crush his heart with oppressive force. The flash of silver that was Katanabe's car breaking out of following them sparked a visceral reaction in him. It only embodied the danger to his employer, a danger to her well-being. The car and its driver couldn't be allowed to be close to her. Takeshiba activated the nitrous oxide feed with fast movements. Okay. As he tried to overtake his adversary who was beginning to pull alongside to the right of the Ika Storm, he accelerated so that he would not just overtake but almost push the king over the off the road. This must be so flippin' dangerous. If you use nitro, you basically are not able to turn as far as I'm concerned. If someone hits you a little bit, it might be game over, right? Anyway, intersection was fast approaching, and despite this offensive effort, it was clear that Ika Storm would not be able to push Katanabe off in time. There would be time and just enough space for Katanabe to make a sharp turn right, escaping the pressure of Takeshiba's car. A split second later, the corner was there, with Katanabe knowing he would be able to make the right turn, just barely avoiding the street lamp while he would do it. A faint drift, perhaps he thought as he reached for the handbrake, hoping to even lean into the white car and use his own car's momentum to bring it off balance. But just as he was reaching for the lever, Katanabe had a realization. He knew it came too late, but all he could do now is try and minimize the damage. He felt the Ika Storm's engine sound change, confirming his theory.
Takeshiba!
He screamed inwardly. And almost helpless as he struggled to brake and not lose control, he watched the white car make a sudden sharp turn to the left, leaving him with the opposite momentum and what was going to be a lot of ground to make up. Inside the Ika Storm, Takeshiba was focused on performing that exact move. He split off at such a late stage, having positioned his car in a way that it was not possible to see or anticipate that intention, that it became impossible to follow him. He guided the car gently in that sharp left turn, losing as little speed as possible, and then accelerated sharply. By the time Katanabe recovered, there was a lot of ground between them. Takeshiba didn't let off, and maneuvered through the traffic, until the very last moment when he saw that the king of the drive was just about to start gaining on them. It was impossible to beat that car in the city, but with enough time, it was possible to hide. Takeshiba made a sharp right turn, disappearing into the side streets. More and more, he picked narrow passages and streets, rapidly exchanging them for the other ones. His acute sense of direction and spatial awareness guided him in taking care. He was always moving away from their pursuer. Not for a second, crossing any street that may open a field of view for Katanabe to potentially spot them from a distance. The Ica storm felt as if it was gliding around the often tight corners and in between parked cars on the sides of the streets they passed. Takeshiba never once made the tires leave any marks, never hit or disturbed any objects in their path or to the side of them, to never leave a mark or indication that a fast-moving vehicle has recently been there. He's crazy. Then the King Overdrive came to view again. Oh crap. He was searching for them, but unaware of their position, as Takeshiba never intended for their disappearance into the side streets to be permanent. After all, that has happened after he saw his lady in such a pain, clearly from the actions of the driver in the grey King Overdrive. The only way of keeping her safe was to... Lady Hinode? Takeshiba's warning reached his employer, just as the force of sudden swift acceleration pressed her into the seat so hard she felt almost unable to move. At once a whine from the engine indicated the turbo was engaged. Again? Oh, you mean turbo, not the nitro, got it. And an unrelating force pushed the car down, lowering its center of gravity in the process. Having turbo is so nice, though. There is quite a, in a way, a vast difference in acceleration, yeah. I mean, my old car didn't have that. Like good old Ford Focus MK1 1.6 engine. It was still handling good. Man, I miss that car for... Yeah. Too bad that, well... You know, the bottom of it basically was getting corroded more and more. And if I wanted to keep it, I would have to do entire underneath of it. And you basically, you know, kind of... I missed. I feel like if I had the money, I would maybe totally buy another one. And maybe do what I initially wanted to do with a car. So kind of max it out. That would be cool. But yeah, that's not going to happen ever. Now for a car, still, you know, not much money spent. But with a turbo and... Yeah, acceleration is definitely better, but... Yeah. I would do the same with this one if I could. How do I win a lottery? Turbo, okay. It seemed like the car was now firmly glued to the surface of the road. And at one point it seemed to sink down even lower to the ground. What the heck? Is this like the Peugeot 406 from Taxi movie? Takeshiba has indeed lowered the car's right half by a few centimeters at that very time, turning the Eka Storm into a mass of metal accelerating ever faster as it approached the bridge. And Katanabe, who has finally spotted the white car, realized what its driver had done. The Eka Storm was built very tough, and with that speed, that low to the ground, and braking ever so slightly to lower its nose, almost scraping the road, had no more time to react. Okay, I see what you've done there. The Eka Storm delivered a blow to the left front of Katanabe's car, transferring its momentum into its side, crushing the tire and bouncing the whole car up. Once destabilized, Takeshiba eased off the throttle gently to lift the car with its hood that was now rising as the effects of the crash were still affecting the balance of the King Overdrive. Lady Hinode felt the impact and was instantly launched forwards by the sudden loss of speed. Her seatbelt slowed her impact at first, then tightly held her body in place. A mere second later, she felt another jolt of acceleration, attempting to take a breath. But feeling her chest compressed once again as Takeshiba pushed the car of Hitachi Katanabe beyond the tipping point, and Katanabe's car finally landed on its roof, sliding in the sidewalk.
Takeshiba!
The deranged Katanabe was screaming, completely losing possession of his senses. He was bleeding upside down his seat. He laughed maniacally as the realization of his defeat became clear to him, a stream of blood running down his face.
Defeated by the fish girl idiots. What a disgrace!
And so the last words of Hitachi Katanabe have been spoken. Is this the chapter end? No.
Takeshiba-kun,
Lady Hinode addressed Takeshiba when once again peace was restored to the drive. They were heading home. Dude, not a scratch on this car, by the way, from the...
If someone, if anyone should say something insulting, something, I just would say, don't listen to anything such people say.
She said, although throughout the whole incident, Takeshiba could hear none of the words addressed to him by Katanabe. But she still wanted Takeshiba to hear what she had just said, because it was weighing on her conscience that she failed to defend him. And although it didn't change her feelings at all, she felt if she hadn't said them just now, they would also feel like some kind of secret. And with that, Takeshiba could... She never wanted to be anything else but truthful.
Your words are the only ones that matter to me, Lady Hinode.
The driver said and smiled. The sound of her voice always made him happy. And though he knew there was much he didn't understand, he felt that Lady Hinode was always protecting him. Like an angel, he thought. The rest of the drive home, there was silence. Lady Hinode thought of perhaps starting a conversation that she had promised Takeshiba-kun about the Alpine Garden. But it felt like she had no strength to do so. For now. For now, she just wanted to sink into the seat and let the gentle swaying of the car as it went through a winding road to her mansion calm her nerves. They arrived home, and when the car pulled into the estate, the gates closed and Takeshiba stopped at the main entrance. Lady Hinode realized she was almost unable to stand. Takeshiba, who opened the door for her, offered his arm when he saw her struggle.
Thank you,
She said, accepting the help.
for everything today.
She added almost inaudibly. Her home staff was ready to help her, as they always were, when their lady returned. It was often that they didn't even say goodbye to each other, because Lady Hinode was so quickly taken care of as soon as she got out of the car. Takeshiba closed the back door and was about to get in the car to park in the garage when he felt Lady Hinode's eyes on him. He looked her way and saw her just turned around towards him as if giving him a goodbye glance. He met her eyes and saw her face flash with kindness as she was rushed inside the mansion. He looked at the car's front when he went around to get in, seeing the main damage from the battle. There would be a lot to do in the garage for the next few days, and they would have to be taking one of the other Ica storms for the time being. I mean, you said you had 7 of them, so you could literally change one every day of the week. This wasn't an uncommon thing, as with identical equipment, they have been switching up the cars daily anyway. See? To allow all of them to be in running condition. Good approach. And when he was falling asleep that night, with flashes of the battle in front of his eyes, he kept seeing her face. The one before their adversary showed up, and the one he saw when she said goodbye to him with her eyes. She really did look like an angel. I think this is where the chapter ends. Game. Yep, thought so. Alright, let's end it here, and we will continue tomorrow. So this chapter, well, definitely lengthier than the epilogue. Yeah, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. I'm having a good time so far. I like it. And once again, as I said in the previous video, so good to see that the, devs that were releasing games when I basically started YouTube are still doing so. There are some of them there. And some of them, well, retired. Yeah, recently, if you know the maker of, for example, Ace Academy. I think that was the title. So basically Pixel Fate. Yeah. Unfortunately, Pixel Fate that's decided to retire. And I ended up buying the rest of the games, by the way. It is sad to see them go, though. Yeah, because they made good games. Like Ace Academy was fantastic. We played Crystalline as well. That was super nice. Kaori After Story, so that is the addition to Ace Academy. That was fun as well. We have 2 more games to play from them. Ethereal Enigma and Astral Ascension. I had Ethereal Enigma already. Astral Ascension I purchased just in case, because I don't know, maybe they will be removing the games from store, right? So I had to get it. So yeah, we'll sit to those eventually. Dude, maybe even this year. We'll see. I will see. Right now, I have, including the driver Takeshiba, I would say I have a must play from each 8 games on the desktop. So we'll go through that. If there will be some addition in the meantime, who knows? Maybe we'll play that addition as well. I do believe I have some more. Yeah, I have 14 more saved up. But those, I believe, are kind of lengthier, so it will be waiting. Then, after those 8 games, I'm jumping into Saudi Electronics Launcher to play one more game again. Once we're done with that, one of the 2 games, maybe there will be some more stuff from each, so we might jump there. And then I'll just jump back again to Saudi Electronics to cover the first game. Yeah, because one of the 3 games we've already played that I was gifted at some point. So I want to play 2 more, and we'll be finished with that. Then again, maybe each. I also would like to cover 1 game from UB Crap Launcher, because we did play. I can say it now. Actually, we played all the Far Cry's except the 6th one. So I think I will play the 6th one as well, which I picked as, you know, the cheapest possible way, as I don't want to give my money to Ubisoft. And I would like to play it before they completely fall. Which hopefully will happen. With that being said, the driver Takeshiba continues tomorrow with the chapter 2 technically. Hope to see you there. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking it. And if you're new around, consider subscribing. Always super appreciated if you decided to stick around. Really, really. And I shall continue playing games, yeah. Also, turn off the restricted mode on YouTube. Turn it off. You don't need restricted mode, you know that. That way you'll be able to see all the videos that are being published. YouTube will not be hiding stuff from you. Turn off the restricted mode. And have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.